Okay, Mr. Boone, you're all set.
Okay. Good afternoon. We'll be calling this meeting to order of the work session for the April 2021 Crestwood School Board on this beautiful day in Mountaintop. Roll call, please.
Ms. Bibla.
Here.
Mr. Brogna.
Here.
Mrs. McCurdy.
Here.
Mrs. McGovern.
Here.
Mrs. Spath.
Here.
Mr. Schwank. Mr. Costello. Mrs. Haddix.
Here.
And Mr. Boone.
Here.
7 members present.
Mr. Mahalik, want to announce our administrators, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Boone. Good evening, members of the Board of Education, members of our public. Thank you for joining us. We do have in attendance Mrs. Paige Foster, Secondary Campus Principal, Mr. John Gorham, Secondary Building Principal. We have Mr. Kevin Sayre, our Elementary Principal from Fairview. I believe Mrs. Gregory is in attendance from Rice Elementary, and Mrs. Harris, our Supervisor of Special Programming. Of course, Mr. Bard is with us as well, our Business Manager, and the one that makes everything happen, Mr. Damian Blanchard. Let me just also see if Mr. Scott Brummagem is with us. He may not be here yet, but Mr. Scott Brummagem will also be here. He is a Director of Buildings and Grounds. So thank you, Mr. Boone, and thank you again to everyone who's in attendance.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will go to Human Resources. Mrs. McGovern.
First, I recommend approving the committee meeting minutes of March 11th. I so move.
Second, Mr. Boone.
Okay, then item under 4, I recommend moving the following to the April 15th board meeting, items A through D. I so move. I guess first, are there any questions on it from the committee? Any from the public or the other board members?
Nothing from the public, Mrs. McGovern.
And no discussion. Then I would recommend moving items A through D to the board meeting of April 15th. I so move. Do I have a second? Somebody.
I will second the motion.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, academic programs. Mrs. Bibla.
Roll call. Ms. McGovern,
Here.
Ms. McCurdy.
Here.
I'll be seeking approval of the minutes of our meeting from March 11th. I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
I recommend moving forward to the board meeting, recommend consideration and approval of Kristen Fowler for tenure as of April 15th, 2021. Any questions from the committee? From the board? The public?
Nothing from the public.
Okay. So I vote to move it forward.
I'll
All in
second it.
favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Open discussions. Ms. Foster, do you want to talk about anatomy and physiology?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to share a few pieces of information for consideration. The first is a new potential course that would be an anatomy, physiology, and kinesiology course targeted towards students that are interested in pursuing a career in the exercise science field or in the pre-med field. This would be a course for our juniors and seniors from the phys ed department that will really take a look into the physical components that our bodies go through or need to have in order to be successful as a person, as an athlete, as well as a healthy person moving through life. AP and K, as I like to call it because it's a whole lot easier than saying anatomy, physiology, and kinesiology, would be targeted to kids that really have an interest in fields like exercise science, personal training, athletic training, occupational therapy, physical therapy, maybe chiropractor, pre-med, going into the medical field. Other career fields could be EMTs, paramedics, nurses, certified nurses, aides, anybody that has an interest in helping people either improve their body function, recover after surgery, or just plain and simply stay healthy, like a massage therapist or a chiropractor would help you stay healthy. So this course, if it's approved, would be a 1-credit direct instruction class only. It would not have a lab. The lab would be considered part of the direct class period. It wouldn't be scheduled separately. And we would use the facilities of not only our gyms, but our athletic training room, as well as our weight room and the facilities down at the field house to really give a broad spectrum view of what this career field can do for you, as well as what kind of coursework you would need in college. It would be almost a pre-college class. It's not offered for college credit, but it is also not an AP class because this class is not, the College Board does not offer an anatomy, physiology, or kinesiology course as an AP course, as an advanced placement course. But it would be a precursor and would set students up to be a little more knowledgeable and a little more aware of what their college coursework could look like. So that's our proposal at this moment in time. I will tell you that it has changed and grown and evolved over our initial conversations about anatomy several months ago, and actually has grown over the past couple of years when we've been talking about anatomy. I think that this opportunity gives more kids an option to join into the class. It also gives us a better look at what kids are looking for beyond this course. And I think this is a good place to start. So questions, comments, discussion that I can help take back to the group of teachers that are working with me to plan this.
You're planning on offering this next year?
Yes, sir.
Do you think it might be wise if we add it to this month's agenda to add that course to our curriculum?
It would absolutely help us in the scheduling process if we could move this forward sooner rather than later.
Okay. Then Anna, I would recommend that we move that addition of that course up into part 4.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. Our teachers will get together as soon as possible and start planning curricula as well as the supplies that are necessary to fit within our next year's budget. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You're up again, Ms. Foster, for comprehensive planning.
Super, thank you. So our comprehensive plan is a 4-year document that helps us plot out what goals and strategies we are focusing on as a district. Our initial comprehensive plan expired in 2021, so we're now in the rewrite phase and revamp and renew. Our first committee meeting went through the pieces of the old plan that were relevant to keep. Those included our district mission statement, values and vision. All of those pieces were very consistent with where we are now. Moving forward, we started to look at 5 goal areas that were very tightly connected to not only what we're doing as a district, but also the Future Ready PA Index and how we're measured by the state. The first goal area is to take a look at students' academics and their growth over time. And the piece that's tremendously important in that area is the fact that one of the components of this pandemic that we are all very stressed about is student academic loss. So measuring growth is tremendously important for all of us, not just Crestwood, but every school across the state. So our first goal is around student growth, and our intention is to maintain or exceed state level targets over the next 4 years. And I've chunked out a plan that will help us stay on track using data analysis that's available from the state to make sure that our students are growing in the key content areas of math and reading, because we know that everything is connected to math and reading as a person, as a functional member in society. So student growth is our first goal. Our second goal is connected directly to our overall vision and target as a school district, which is our vision statement of your future is our goal. So our career readiness piece, also connected to our goal and connected to our Future Ready PA Index, is a measurement of what experiences do our students have exploring careers throughout their history with us as a student, K through 12, that help them experience different careers, as well as write a plan for what do I want to do beyond high school. So our career readiness goals takes the initiatives of the secondary campus and trickles them back at developmentally appropriate levels into the elementary grades, because the Future Ready PA Index believes, and I concur with, the fact that students can think about careers and learn about careers as young as kindergarten. In fact, they're doing it now when they have guest readers come in and talk about, this is what I do as an accountant, this is what I do as a fireman, this is what I do as a dental hygienist. That stuff is already happening. So let's include it in our comprehensive plan and help make our career readiness systemic, not isolated. So that's our second goal. Our third goal is around social and emotional wellness. One of the pieces that we know as before the pandemic, but now even more so during the COVID pandemic, is that attention on students' personal wellness is not just a matter of their heart rate and their blood pressure and their BMI. It's also about how are they feeling emotionally and how are they interacting with their peers. So we have developed a skeletal social and emotional goal, which takes a look at mental health and emotional wellness. We're working on creating a curricula that is infused within core content areas of phys ed and health, social studies, and the careers related arts classes, as well as guidance classes, to explicitly teach how do you handle when you feel stressed, how do you handle that? Through mindfulness techniques, through recognizing the signs and symptoms of depression in a friend and how to help. Through this next 3 years, we'll build a system of not only direct instruction and curricula, but also a tiered framework of supports. Just because we teach it doesn't mean that it's going to work flat for everyone. We need a tiered level of interventions and help for kids when things aren't going well. So that's part of the social and emotional goal. And as it becomes more concrete, just like the other ones, I will share details. Tonight is just an overview. The third goal is around technology. Again, in this pandemic, if it wasn't for technology, we would have been high and dry. I think that the technology goal needs to be to sustain our use of Chromebooks, as well as to develop a plan to get us to one Chromebook to one kid situation, also known as one-to-one devices. I've worked with Damien and we've plotted out a very sequential annual plan of how many devices we need to purchase and then how many devices we need to continue to purchase for those that go out of life. We've also taken a look at other areas of technology like infrastructure and our projection boards. They're called Promethean, that's the brand name, and how to phase in a systematic purchase of those Promethean boards so that we don't have to spend a huge chunk of money this year, but we can chunk it out over the next 3 years to get us to a point where every smart board in the district has been replaced with a new device. Reason being, they are out of life, and many are dying and not repairable. So the process of replacing them has to be a strategic plan. The other piece that we're taking a look at is the software that runs through computers, and to make certain that our plans for continued use of ebooks and continued use of Google Classroom and Edmentum is part of our thought process in technology. There are lots of other little pieces in that, but the intent is to not just purchase new systems, but to plan for and implement the replacement process along the way. And the last piece is in the financial area. I've worked with Peter Bard to scope out a plan that will get us to a point by the end of this season of comprehensive planning to get us to a very positive fund balance of approximately 8%. And we've got a plan in place to step ourselves from where we are now at a fund balance of about, it looks like about 3.5% to 4%, up to a fund balance of 8% of our expenditures. So that plan includes things like in chasing after more grant money, to raise taxes judiciously, to reduce spending as much as possible, and to reduce the reliance on tax anticipation notes over a long period of time. So those 5 areas will be part of our comprehensive plan. As those pieces are solidified, I'll bring them back to the board and the public for review and comment. What I'm proud of is the fact that these 5 areas are things that we have been working on for a long period of time. And the piece that makes me even prouder is the fact that there are things already in the works that this plan just helps make better. So that's our preview of the comprehensive plan. And as more unrolls and evolves over the next several months, I will continue to bring information back to this committee. So thank you.
Peg, thank you so very much. I want to, if we can at this time, maybe allow Mr. Sayre a few moments to discuss briefly the concept that we have been working together, and Kevin has really took the lead on. We hear so much about learning loss, and we're still, obviously working through, what effects that has had on our students. And I think as an administrative team, we have a very good plan in place, even if there isn't learning loss, a continuation of education for this summer. So if we can, Mr. Sayre, would you briefly and quickly give us a little briefing on our plan?
Sure. Thanks, everybody, for allowing me to speak about our proposal for summer programming. So I want to start off just with a little bit of why we're doing it. The Crestwood School District is striving to provide a meaningful educational experience to our K-8 students to lessen the impact of educational disruption. I want to focus on the word meaningful for a second because it's important that I frame that. What do I mean by meaningful? Well, we want it to be well attended. We want students to attend with fidelity, and we want it to be engaging with an academic purpose. That academic purpose needs to be Pennsylvania core aligned. So how are we going to do that? We're going to offer virtual and in-person programs. We intentionally plan for a variety of options across grade levels. As I said before, we planned for K-8. That variety, again, is there's an in-person format and there's a virtual format. So what are we going to do? Who and what is going to do this? Our Crestwood School District faculty, hopefully, will be working in this summer program in 2 possible capacities. You're either going to be a virtual tutor, kindergarten through 4th grade, or an in-person kindergarten through 8th grade in what we're calling an educational camp format. So I want to stress that One of the things we purposely did was make a variety of offerings to meet families where they are at. We recognize that offering a 6-week summer program is a large commitment for most families. Most families can't commit to 4 days a week for 6 straight weeks in the summer. That's just not the way life works anymore. So we've tailored our program to offer variety. For instance, if you're a student K-4 receiving virtual tutoring, you're going to be expected 1 hour a day on 3 days a week to be on live with your virtual tutor. And if you're on vacation in North Carolina, you can still participate no matter where you are. And transportation is not a barrier. And we have some really good literacy strategies in place that are going to create some real meaningful intervention, remediation, to lessen the impact of that educational disruption. We recognize that we have to diversify our offerings, not just to literacy remediation, but for any learner in any family who wants to engage in something meaningful. And to that end, we're creating the educational camps. These are in-person opportunities. Some for the younger students are 3 weeks long, 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. There are also options that are 1 week long that meet for 12 total hours within the week. These opportunities, again, will be staffed by our professionals and are only limited by the creativity of our professionals. One of the things that I've learned in my long career at Crestwood is giving our professional staff the opportunity to be creative and to create for us typically results in a better outcome than us telling or directing. So we're excited for our teachers to offer proposals for an educational style camp. It could be, for instance, a nature camp. It could be a create a book camp. It could be a mathematics-based camp. It could be a STEM-based camp. So we're excited to receive these proposals from our faculty that we can then put out to our public and allow for our stakeholders, K-6 and also in 7 and 8, to ask to be included at no cost whatsoever to them. The only thing they do have to provide is transportation, because Crestwood School District will not be affording transportation for these events. So as a parent, what you should be expecting is a newsletter within the month of May, mid-May, that details these offerings and that gives you an opportunity to participate. We will also be specifically inviting students in K-4 who we believe could use additional literacy support throughout the summer to compensate for the educational disruption. So that is the overview. I could go on forever, or I could keep it right to this point. So we'll stop here. Any questions?
I think that's very good. Thank you. And yeah, we'll take questions from the board or anyone from the public.
Will we be doing anything above grade 4?
Yes, our offerings are K-8.
K-8?
The K-4 I keep emphasizing because we have some specific remedial offerings there that are going to be targeted and specific and by invite. And if people should decline, we just keep going in an order. But the educational camps that I spoke of, there's actually educational camps for everybody, K-8 as well.
On the high school level, if students are credit deficient, which may have happened simply because of the mode of education this year because of the pandemic, they'll be encouraged to go to off-campus like LCC as in the past to make up credits that they have not been able to successfully perform this year? Or have we not gotten that far yet?
I'll take that, Mr. Mahalik.
Before Ms. Foster takes that.
Yep.
Different silos. So
Right.
we're talking about summer programming for enrichment and remedial, and you're asking about a credit recovery, for lack of a better word. So that's Mrs. Foster's to speak to.
So credit recovery for students in grades 9 through 12, will be offered this summer virtually through our Admentum software. So students, as they enter ninth grade, the clock changes from, actually the clock changes into the need to earn credits toward graduation. As you know, they were required 23 credits for graduation, and they have the loose flexibility to catch up a very few number of credits that they've been deficient in over time. So that's why we offer credit recovery options, and we'll offer that in the 4 major areas: math, science, social studies, and ELA this summer.
Thank you.
In grades 7 and 8 in the middle school, we'll be talking about fun thematic camps with a focus on math, computation, and problem solving, as well as in English language arts on reading comprehension and writing. I've suggested activities, things like STEM or coding, environment and ecology, physics, the physics of games and toys and play and sports, readers and writers workshops and creating books and writing their own novels, theaters and performance, careers and getting out into how do I do this kind of thing? What's an electrician really do? And do they really have to climb that pole? Yeah, all of those kinds of things that are happening in the real world. So those are the kinds of ideas that I'm sure our teachers will grab and expand on. They're more creative than I am. They'll come up with much more fun ideas around camps than I will. So that's what will turn out to them very shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
when you were talking about credits for graduation, there were many, many students that took Algebra 1 and Bio 1 in 8th grade. I assume they do not count.
That's correct. They don't.
So
No one took Bio 1 in 8th grade, but Algebra 1, absolutely.
They did
And
take Bio 1 also.
There was one student that's a different situation that I can't get into in this environment, but predominantly the students in 8th grade take either Algebra 1 or pre-algebra, and they know ahead of time that doesn't not count towards graduation.
Okay. So they would have to pick up something else as a senior.
They would take Algebra 2, and then they typically go to calculus or prob and stats. They need 3 math credits in order to graduate, not 4. So they're not negatively impacted by that 8th grade.
Hey, just for my own reference, is it something that the state does not allow, or is it local that we don't start gaining credits to 9th grade? Is that a state or local?
Local.
Okay,
Excuse me.
thank you.
Mhm.
Any,
And why is that? If it's not state requirement?
I don't know. That's been a long-standing practice that was way before my tenure here in 2012.
So is it only our school? Or is it all schools?
I'm not sure. I can look into that for you.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, now I know several other schools I had been at also began at 9th grade, but I think we should look at that because you do have students challenging themselves very early on. But I think that'd be something good for us to look into, Peg.
Yeah, like I said, it doesn't negatively impact their graduation because there's 3 math credits specifically that are requirements. They can certainly take 4 if they wish. So I can take a look at that, no problem.
But I know you said not too many took Bio 1 in 8th grade, but I do recall some taking Bio 2 in 9th, and then Chemistry 1 in 10th, and Chemistry 2 in 11th, or Physics in 11th.
Unfortunately, that's not current practice. Oh,
But it was at the time.
That may have been many years ago, but the scope and sequence now in 7th and 8th grade is life science in 7th grade, physical science in 8th grade, and then Bio 1 as 9th graders, Bio 2 as 10, and then the choice to go Chem versus Physics.
Okay, but back a few years ago, it wasn't the same.
Correct. Several years ago, they changed it. I'm thinking it was in the tenure of Mr. Waite.
And
It
I'm
was several
only,
years ago.
because I do Well, I do know kids that have taken Bio 1 in ninth grade, so that's why I'm asking.
Sure, yeah, Bio 1
And
can
so
be in
how
ninth
many
grade.
sciences do they need to graduate?
3.
Okay.
Mr. Blanchard, any other questions regarding our summer program?
Yes, Mr. Mahalik. We have a question from Amber Lynn Williams Boyle. Can students use these camps to help them learn more about something that interests them or will help them prepare for the next grade level?
So there's definitively going to be options provided, so you can gravitate as a student with the support of your family to something that is of greater interest. As I stated, the variety is the hallmark of what I hope is a successful summer program that is meaningful. I'm actually excited to see what our faculty brings to the table between Rice and Fairview. We're building this very fluidly, but I've already been approached with some ideas that are definitively exciting and should be of interest. And as I said earlier, are all going to be PA core standards aligned, so they will build and make someone more ready for the following year.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Mr. Blanchard, any other questions?
No, Mr. Mahalik.
Okay, I would like to at this time just congratulate a few of our students who have had some great awards to them. We have Ali Fiso and Sarah Vaselli. They have been selected as WVIA's Artist of the Week. A tremendous honor. The talent of these two students is amazing. I sent the link out last evening to our families, and you can get a little picture, a little review of some of their work. So congratulations, Ali and Sarah, our first VIA Artist of the Week. I am certain more will be coming as we just have a tremendous program, a great teacher, and again, very, very proud of these two. We also have some very, very big news. I'll let Mrs. Foster, Mr. Gorham talk about our Scholastic Superstars.
We were proud to be notified that we have 3 students recognized as the Citizens Voice Scholastic Superstars class of 2021. They are Maddox Testa, Trey Zabrowski, and Nicole Joseph. They are part of a 25-member class that was chosen by 5 judges from nominations submitted by school districts across the Citizens Voice coverage area. Most school districts got 1 or 2. We got 3. I am thrilled, proud, and excited for these kids. They received their medals during a ceremony on Thursday, May 27th at the FM Kirby Center. And it's really an awesome honor for these kids. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Foster and Mr. Boone. I think that's going to conclude our section of this agenda.
Anna, you want to adjourn your meeting?
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Technology, Mrs. McCurdy.
Gonna do policy, Mr. Boone?
We can put it in now or later.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll do policy and transportation at the end.
okay.
Okay, roll call, Mrs. Bibla
Here.
and Mr. Costello. Okay,
Step out for just a little bit, Mrs. McCurdy.
okay, thank you. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 11th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I have nothing this month to move to the agenda. Are there any questions or discussion items from anyone on the board? Is there any questions from the community?
No, Ms. McCurry.
Okay, thank you. Well, move to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Positive Behavioral Intervention Committee, Mrs. Dibla.
Roll call. Ms. McGovern,
Here.
Ms. Spath,
Here.
seeking approval for the minutes of March 11th, 2021. I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're recommending moving 2 items to the board meeting next week. Under 4, recommend consideration and approve the agreement with Wvia for a Crestwood student. Recommend consideration and approve the agreement with the LIU for a partial hospitalization program. Any questions? Questions from the board? Public?
No questions.
I move to move these items forward. Do I have to do a roll call, Mr. Boone, for these?
No, just all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Open discussion. Mr. Mahalik, do you want to talk about the assembly?
Yeah, I would love to. And I think Mr. Gorham is here with us as well. Mr. Gorham, are you available?
Yes, I am. Yep.
We had, and I really need to thank Mr. Gorham. He spearheaded this assembly. It was just so well received. Again, I want Mr. Gorham to just speak a little bit, but I can tell you that I attended. There were 5 presentations that our speaker did. I attended each one of them. Over 1,000 students heard our speaker. And he was tremendous. Mr. Gorham, if you give just a little background on our speaker, on the day, because it was just tremendous. And I thank you so much for the effort you put in to making this happen virtually. It was not easy doing something like this virtually.
Yeah, so we had Keith Deltano. He was actually positioned in North Carolina in his home that he has since put a studio into his home. He travels all over the world, and he does social emotional engagements in schools, assemblies and things of that nature. But he has since, due to the pandemic, created a virtual assembly. We were fortunate enough to be able to book him. And like Mr. Mahalik said, he presented 5 different presentations. We started our day with a teacher workshop where we had around 100 teachers and staff present for that. It started off in the morning. We had 3 student presentations that consisted of grades 7 and 8, 9, 10, and 11 and 12. And he varied those presentations, which was really nice, and he tailored them to the specific grade levels and the issues that pertain to them age appropriately. So it was very well received by the students. And then we had an evening session for parents, and we had a small group of parents attend, which was nice that we offered that and that it was available to the parents. And we did have, like I said, some parents attend, which was well received. We got a lot of positive feedback from the students through emails, phone calls. I personally got a lot of feedback from the students thanking us and trying to reach out to our speaker themselves, which is always nice. So, this is something that we're looking to bring back in the future. And, I just want to say thank you to the board, for approving this.
Yeah, I would just like to add that it's one of the few assemblies that I've been involved with where I had teachers, students, as well as members of the public. And as Mr. Gorham said, it was a small group, about 35 members of the public joined us, but still impactful. But I had all three of those groups of students reach out to me and thank me. And again, the work really went to Mr. Gorham and his team and the board for supporting this type of programming. But all three of them, and the emails were just, they were powerful. The gentleman through comedy and humor made you think and made you look at situations that our students are dealing with today and how best to help our students and your children address them. So Keith was phenomenal, but more importantly was that the students were able to really have this opportunity. And we were able to gauge who was on and who remained on. And that was what was just, so telltale to me, because that number stayed the same. 350 kids, 400 kids, it never was going down. And they could have logged off at any time. But they stayed on. And so it was tremendous. And it's obviously with all we're dealing with in the world today and things like this, our kids need to know that there are people here to help them. There are tremendous resources here in our district, and they're not alone, and they don't need to feel alone. So again, there will be more of these because it's important for our students. And the idea that we could, even when we're fully back in person, that we may be able to connect with speakers and bring them virtually to our students in an assembly-like fashion is something that we're going to look forward, because it does become much more affordable. And the speaker mentioned that. I don't need to fly out there. I don't need to, rent a car. I don't need to find meals. I don't need to find a place to stay. I mean, that really takes the cost and drives them up. The cost for 5 performances, it would be tremendous if it was in person. So very, very grateful again. So thank you.
And one other thing, Mr. Mahalik, we also obtained through the presenter and through his organization, we obtained a year subscription to his curriculum and his lesson plans and his videos. And he has just a whole litany of resources that we were afforded because we booked the program. So we looked at it briefly, but the plan was to have the presentation first and then roll out some of the opportunities we have through his group, so we could push this into the classrooms and do some small mini teaching opportunities with that, and not just have a one-time performance. So we are going to use those resources moving forward.
Thank you, Mrs. Billa.
Okay. That concludes positive behavior.
Thank you. Co-curricular, Mrs. McGovern.
Roll call. Swain.
Danny.
Haddix.
Here.
I'd like to, I'm sorry. I recommend approval of the minutes of our committee meeting of March 13th. I so move.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then there is nothing on the agenda for April. So is there anything for discussion? Well, then I guess I'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Boone, I apologize.
Yep.
If I may, and I apologize, Mrs. McGovern, I just want to take a moment to congratulate, I don't know that we had an opportunity in our last meeting, all of our participants in our winter sports. They did a tremendous, they had a tremendous season, all the ups and downs. tremendous season. So I just want to congratulate them. Again, the support that the Board of Education provided them during this time, but specifically our girls basketball team had a great season, winning double the games from a year earlier. Again, so very, very exciting end of the season. If everybody had an opportunity to watch the games on our network, and you maybe even were able to be entertained by our announcing team, Mr. Barry Boone and Mr. Jack Dean. So big, congratulations to our girls team, our boys team. What a year, what a tremendous, tremendous year. Hats off to the coach, Mr. Mark Atherton, obviously the boys, special young men who had a year that none of us will ever forget. So congratulations to them. Our wrestling team, and no one had more, really had no more difficulties with COVID than this wrestling team. There was a time I think we had to have them shut down for nearly a month, and they still kept themselves in good shape, which we know is so important with any athletic team, especially in wrestling. Kept themselves conditioned and had a great season, and a very special congratulations to Trey Sabrowski for being a state qualifier and going to states, wrestled very, very well, made us all, again, very proud. And again, that was with very, very little practice time this entire year. So a great season. The spring is looking super, and I look to give you updates on the spring as well as time goes on. But thank you, Mrs. McGovern, for that time.
And Mr. Mahalik, I'd also like to say that the girls softball games are being live streamed by Mr. Pollock, which is a great thing for those that can't attend.
You're right that they are, and it is. So that's thank you for pointing that out, Mrs. McGovern. And again, we're off to a very good start with our spring sports as well. Again, I'll update us because the kids deserve that recognition. It's not about me and our. It's about the students, and they're doing tremendous. And I will add to that, I think this needs to be said as well, because for the first time in the history of Crestwood School District, our tennis team, our boys tennis team, has defeated Wyoming Seminary. We know that Seminary puts a great team out each and every year. And so for the first time in the history, our boys defeated them, and just a well fought match. And they, so a big congratulations to the boys tennis team as well. But we'll update as we go with the spring sports. So again, thank you, Mrs. McGovern.
Okay, thank you. Financial planning, Mr. Brogna.
Thank you, Mr. Boone. I'll be doing a roll call first. Mrs. Haddix.
Here.
Mr. Swank. Not present. We'll be recommending moving forward the following items 1 through 7 excuse me, let me take a step back. I'll be seeking approval for the minutes from March 11th. I so move. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And any opposed? Hearing none. The recommendation for this committee meeting, as you look at the agenda, is items 1 through 7 to be moved forward to the April 15th board meeting for a vote. Do we have any questions from our committee? Any questions from the board on any of these items? Mr. Blanchard, are there any questions from the public?
No, Mr. Broga.
Okay, I'll seek a nomination to move these items forward to a board vote next Thursday, April 15th. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Discussion items. One very important item, actually both very important items, but in particular where we continue to want the public's input and involvement in our budget process. We have set April 12th, which is next Monday at 6 o'clock, for an opportunity to meet in person, and as well will be live streamed for those who cannot participate. Public feedback probably as important now more than ever for the significance of our future budget planning. There'll be several meetings, and this meeting will be led by our business manager, Mr. Bard. And knowing that that meeting has both been publicized, and as will be the subsequent meetings, and all board members and administration were notified of the meeting plans. The second item, which is on the up for discussion, and I'll let Mr. Bard and Mr. Brummagem address this, the projects that relate to cameras and swipe cards at the field house. And I know Mr. Bard is seeking grant funding for this. So Mr. Bard, do you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, so I want to note the location change for the 12th. We were supposed to have it in the auditorium, but due to the drama club is having play practice in the auditorium. So due to the stage being taken up with some equipment, we decided to move it into the cafeteria because it is easier and there'll be more space in there to do the meeting without disrupting the play practice. So Damien is fine with doing it in there. So that'll be good for that. So then number two, the cameras and swipe cards. When the field house was completed, there was no cameras or swipe cards installed at the field house. So I wrote 2 grants, one from the Pennsylvania Commission of Crime and Delinquency for 40 grand, and we were awarded that. It was a grant that we were denied 3 different times on, but I stayed on top of it and continued to write it and continued to appeal the denial. And on the 4th time, we were actually awarded the $40,000 for that, and we're going to use that money for cameras. And then we wrote a grant for $25,000 at the Pennsylvania Safe Schools grant for equipment. We're going to use that $25,000 for also cameras and swipe cards at the field house to better enable our security, to extend our security system that we have here at the secondary campus down at the field house to better protect our investment that we have down there. And Damien is working diligently to make sure that we get this done, hopefully by the end of June, to have this completed and installed. So we're using solely with grant money on this, not anything from the general fund. And then next year, I will hope to rewrite another part of the grant money to complete the project. We need about $100,000 to complete it. So we got a big chunk of it this year. Hopefully we'll get another $35,000 to complete it next year. And then we'll figure out, we'll hopefully get everything done that we need to get done down there in terms of the cameras and the door swipes. So we have good security down there. So that's really all the discussion items I have. I do want to mention one member of our committee is celebrating her birthday today, her 20th anniversary of her 21st birthday, Mrs. Stacy Haddix. So I want to wish her a very happy birthday. So I just wanted to make known. So happy birthday, Mrs. Haddix.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for those grants, Mr. Bard. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to thank Damien for his hard work on this as well, because Damien I threw this on his plate kind of last minute with everything else that he's been working on with our continuity of education plan and Chromebooks and stuff like that. Damien has done a great job at getting vendors in here to give us prices and whatnot to get us the best price that we can to maximize our grant money as well. So he's doing a great job with helping us out with that.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Bard, for your report. It's truly unfortunate that these items that are so critical to an independent structure were left out of the multi-million-dollar plans for the field house. But I appreciate you not allowing this to pass on to an additional Crestwood operational cost and seeking these grants. It's really critical where we're trying to save as much money as possible. And obviously we need both security and swipe access. So very grateful for the cost savings that you've done. Are there any further comments from the board or the committee or the public?
No, Mr. Brogna.
Okay, I'll be seeking a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Transportation, Mrs. Spath.
Mr. Boone, 1 second. I have to change do you want to do physical plant first while we're on this agenda? Because that's a separate page.
Okay.
And then I'll just have to switch the screens for transportation.
Physical plant, Mrs. Haddix.
Roll call, Mr. Costello.
He's stepped
Mr.
out.
Bro-
Present.
I will be seeking approval of the March 11th minutes. I so move.
Second, Mr. Brogna.
The only item that I will be seeking approval to move to next week's board meeting agenda will be the boiler replacement project. We have not received the proposal yet. We are expecting that no later than April 13th. Once it is received, that can be shared with the rest of the board to see if there are any discussion items on that project. The next item, which was the computerized work order system, that has not been identified yet as which system is being chosen. So we are hoping that by the May committee and board meetings, a selection will be made.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments about?
Yeah, Mrs. Alex, thank you. What I will do is next week we will begin trying the programs that we have looked at. I'd like to do a meeting with representatives from the companies, have them take us through the process of what their software can do. I've used several programs in the past. I know you have, so I'm familiar with them, and it's really something that is going to be a great benefit to the district in so many different ways. But something that you have stressed over and over is the maintenance of our equipment. You know, a computerized work order system is, you almost cannot do it without some sort of computerized program. And it's just the way it is. And it's a way to, you know, put your priority projects and make sure that they're being attended to. It's a way of us looking at our manpower and you know, the time it takes to complete projects. So it's going to be something very, very useful and make us more efficient and more effective as a department. So we will begin that process of bringing companies in virtually and having them demonstrate their product to us. And I do expect us ready with a recommendation for May.
Great. Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, I will move to the open discussion. One item that we have under discussions is the Wright Township zoning hearing. It is scheduled for 7 p.m. on April 26th. Mr. Brummagem was going to reach out to Attorney Dean. We believe that we will need an engineer and appraiser to attend that meeting. But Mr. Brummagem was going to just verify if that is indeed the case. If it is, we will reach out to Crabtree to ask for a representative to be at that zoning hearing. Any questions or comments on the zoning hearing?
And this is, just to clarify, this is for the house that was purchased 2 years ago. We need to get that out of a residential designation and into our school district designation. We have received tax bills on that property. Actually, it's a little bit funny because we actually got a tax bill from the Crestwood School District to the Crestwood School District. So we really got to get that out of our name and put into a tax exempt status. So we have to go through the zoning hearing board, the zoning hearing situation. So that's what this process is. And I think Scott and Attorney Dean have it handled. So we're thankful for them to get that taken care of.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, I will ask for a second to adjourn. I so move.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to policy. I don't know who's running this. Mr. Mahalik, did Mr. Costello ask you to look in on this one?
Mr. Costello is not back yet. So if we want, I certainly, we could open up.
We have transportation to do also, Bo.
Right.
We will.
But I think we could have Mrs. Bath, Mrs. McCurdy, look at the recommended items to be moved forward for a third reading and adoption. We have looked at these 203, 218.3, 247, 249, 252. Again, these we have looked at. Several of these are updates coming out of PSBA, correct, Mrs. Otero?
Yes, it is. And this is the third reading, and it will be moved over into the third reading category after next week's board meeting. But you can look at it in the second reading as of now.
Right. So if we're good, I mean, Mrs. Bath, if it's okay, I'll ask if we will begin with approving the minutes of the policy committee meeting for March 11, 2021.
Yeah, that's sure, Bob. So you want me to make the motion?
Yes, if that's
okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the policy committee meeting for March 11th, 2021. I so move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Can I talk about the next one, Bob?
Sure.
Okay, so I have been waiting for feedback from PSBA on this, and I did get an email right before this meeting. They are sending me a quote. There is a fee to merge those together, the 300s, the 400s, all employees. So to do it the proper way, they are sending me a quote from PSBA. So as soon as I have it, I will forward it over to the committee.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Spath, you want to continue?
Sure. Sorry, I'm just following along here.
Yeah, number A. Mrs. Bath.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're going to be recommending consideration to approve the following policies for a third reading and adoption at the April 15th, 2021 board meeting. Are there any questions?
No questions from the public, Mrs. Bath.
Okay. So Bob, I'm sorry. So this 5 here, is this also to be moved forward, or is this just discussion?
That's just discussion.
That was
Okay.
just,
Okay. So then I will recommend, since there's no questions, recommend consideration to approve the following policies for a third reading and adoption. I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so it looks like the next couple of items are discussion, policy notice. PSBA has been contacted to provide a final review on retiring and updating the following policies. So I don't know, Bob, I don't have any background on this one other than what's here.
That's the one that I just spoke about, Mrs. Bath, that we will be getting a quote for them to do the proper procedures and merging those together because they no longer have different sections for employees and we need to do it the proper way.
Okay.
So as
All right,
soon as
and
I get that, I'll forward that to you guys.
Okay, and then the next discussion item is the CSD policy manual. Administration will be moving policies from draft to active, approved at the March 2021 board meeting once PSBA policy maintenance has reviewed the policies and legal citations.
Due to this time, they are still backed up, and as soon as it's ready, I will move them forward and let you know about them.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the committee or the board? Okay. Anything from the public?
Nothing from the public, Mrs. Beth.
Okay. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs.
We're-
Just give me 1 second. I got to switch to transportation.
Yeah, Mr. Blanchard will be switching the screens, and then we will have our Transportation Committee report by Mrs. Spath.
Okay, all set.
Okay. Thanks, Damien. Oh, I lost it on my screen. There it is. Thank you. All right, I'm going to take a roll call first. Mr. Costello? Mrs. Bibla?
Here.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the March 11th, 2021 board meeting. I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this month there's nothing to move forward to the agenda for next week, but we do have some discussion items. Buses and drivers are back to regular schedules. Masks are required with assigned seats and windows must be cracked 2 inches. So Bob, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
And I do appreciate members of the community informing me when the windows are not cracked. Again, this is not something that Bob Mahalik or even Mrs. Spath or any members of this committee have come up with because we just want windows open. This is something that the CDC has recommended for transportation. And it's to keep, good clean air flowing through the bus. And we know that ventilation is very important whenever you're in an enclosed space. So, which is what a bus is. So we are continuing daily to reminding our drivers and our company that the windows must be cracked. Now, it's beautiful out, and it's been beautiful now for some time. When it was a little colder, when we first went back, opening those windows just a little bit still was not going to make the bus uncomfortably cool because the heating system would be running as well. We're looking for good, clean air to be circulating in the bus. So it needs to take place. And if it's not, if you could let me know that. I know all of our administration are looking when the buses arrive and when they depart. Everyone needs to wear masks while on that bus. And of course, especially our drivers.
So Bob, just
Yes.
can you clarify the 2 inches requirement? Is it all windows should be open 2 inches?
So CDC recommends just, even 2 windows per side will give you enough circulation on a trip that is, under, 30 minutes, which most of our runs are. So it's not even that you need to open every window, just several windows, would get enough circulation. Again, this is right from the guidance that we've been provided. But again, yes.
Could we possibly just put a number on this? Can we say we want 5 windows on each side open?
Sure.
Because at this point, I get pictures of the buses constantly with people saying windows aren't open. And then I also suggest maybe putting in the school newsletter, reminding parents that the windows are going to be open, even though it's nice out, maybe still send in a jacket or a hat or something. Cause I know there's the other side of it saying that, they don't want the wind blowing around them, their kids are cold. So just to kind of take it out of everybody else's hands, and we're saying we want this number open and be done with it.
Okay. So, and I will say that you'll see on some of the buses, the company has even put a strip of what looks to be like masking tape or some sort of tape to remind the drivers, open these windows. So again, I could just assume that maybe sometimes the morning, it's early, we forget, because I know that I continue to receive pictures and I immediately, notify the company that windows have not been cracked on several of these buses. But yeah, I mean, again, the guidance from the CDC had been, several windows, depending on the size of the bus on each side. We determined that 2 on each side would, be sufficient. We could increase that because again, one, it's warm out now. So probably just for kids to be comfortable, because remember, they are wearing masks and they need to wear masks. Everybody must wear a mask on the buses. As we get ready to go back next week into phase 5 and have our full return of our virtual students, we know now these buses, especially in the elementary, will be back to looking like what our buses look like, 2 kids per seat. And that's going to be every seat. We are certainly concerned about this. The windows need to be open. I am going to tomorrow I'm going to write in a memo to our company that we'd like every 3rd window to be open on each side of the bus. Every 3rd window will give us, again, plenty of ventilation. And even now, it's warm enough in the mornings to where that's not going to make it uncomfortably cool for the students. But we do. I mean, we are seeing a very large uptick in cases. And for the very first time in my 14 months in dealing with this, I am seeing students really affected. Students, every day, there are students becoming positive. So we need to do everything we can to mitigate this situation. And if opening a window gives us a better chance of mitigating it, open the window. Our teachers are doing everything they're supposed to be doing in the classrooms. Our administration is doing everything they can do in the hallways, in the bathrooms, our lunch areas. I mean, there's great, there's been a lot of great effort here to mitigate. And we know even with those mitigating strategies that it's, still going to happen. But the buses are concerns. Masks must be worn. We have assigned seats. The assigned seats are for when there is a positive case, we know who needs to quarantine, because that quarantine is still 6 feet. So if you're sitting on a bus and you're within 6 feet of a positive case, you will need to quarantine. If you're sitting in a classroom, we know that the CDC guidelines have changed to the space that we need, and that's 3 feet. However, we still contact trace to 6 feet. So if you're within 6 feet in a classroom, you will need to quarantine. The lunchroom, this is a non-negotiable. This is the one area where it needs to be 6 feet. That mask goes off for kids to eat, to drink. We know that that's a time where there will be airborne. And it's just, so there is no negotiating 6 feet during those times. And our administrators, again, kudos to the administration and to the teachers, because it takes a lot to figure out how do you now get 6 feet in the lunchroom? Because remember, the CDC is saying shrink that down to 3, and our classrooms just barely fit 3 feet. But now when we go to that lunchroom, it's back to 6. And our lunchrooms don't have 6 feet, never did have 6 feet when all of our students are returning. So there's some non-negotiables, and I'm starting to really say a non-negotiable is cracking the windows on the bus. Don't know really at the end how much this helps, but if it gives us a chance and it keeps our schools open, keeps our kids healthy, and keeps our kids, it prevents our kids from taking this stuff home and giving it to family members, well then, my gosh, that's it's the least we can do. So I hope that this will be the last time this needs to be discussed, because it's been discussed for some time now. And again, I do appreciate the community.
I have a few questions. I was at Fairview 1 week and I couldn't tell anything. I was there for the backpack program and it was bus drill, so I had to throw that week out. When the buses arrive on campus, do the students disembark when the buses arrive, which is a recommendation that I got from other people across the state, or are they held a certain time on the bus until the staff is ready to receive the students?
They
Why don't
disembark,
we take that to Mr. Sayre. Go ahead,
they
Mr.
disembark upon arrival. Yeah,
Okay.
you observe, Mr. Boone, was no way to do that.
Oh, I know, that's why I said I couldn't judge from the time I was there. And a second recommendation that I got, and I don't know if this was discussed with the bus companies, when picking up the students in the morning, even if they're assigned seats, you load back to front. And when they disembark, it's front to back. That way you have less chance of coming in close proximity of other students. I don't know how you do that at dismissal, but that might be something to discuss with them. And the reason for the early disembarkment is if we do get a little crowded and you keep them spread out, that the last kids you pick up would be in closer proximity. You get them off the bus within 15 minutes of them being close to each other, then we don't have much of a problem. So I don't know if those discussions have taken place with the bus company or not.
Well, they have. You know, some of that, Mr. Boone, is just impossible.
Okay.
Because, you know, obviously the way the routes are constructed is the way kids enter, you know, the buses. So what they ask for is the first kids on to take the seats in the rear, as you mentioned. The problem with that is we also don't want a kindergarten, first grader, second grader going to the very end of the bus, okay? Because for many reasons, we want those kids closest to our drivers, want to make sure, I mean, kids again are kids and we want them to have fun and do the things that they do. But we typically keep our younger kids closer to up front, the little older kids in the rear of the bus. But everyone has assigned seats, Mr. Boone. And again, when you look at the 15 minutes, the 15 minutes cumulative, the moment passing is less of a concern than it is the time sitting in the seat. And again, not going against what people have said, but all that I have come to know about COVID and the many discussions, I'm less worried about that, that trip down the aisle than I am sitting in the seat, for 20-25 minutes. That's where the concern is. Because again, it's very likely that we're going to have a situation and that situation is going to require us contact tracing on a bus.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So any other questions or comments from the board or the public? All right. Seeing no questions, I am going to move to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I want to thank everyone for being with us when you could be outside in this beautiful weather. And I hope to see you on Monday at 6 o'clock for our budget presentation, and next Thursday at 6:30 for our regular board meeting. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.